All right, stochastic. Here we go. It's your old pal EMac running solo on a little NBA All-Star action here. We've got about 30 minutes until the official lock time of our DFS contest. Who knows when the game's actually going to start, but we have a lot to cover here. I will be referring a lot to my article. That is free for you guys. That is on the homepage. I've written this for 7 or 8 years now. I break everything down, the narratives, everything that's going on. I also cover, recent history, a variety of things. Couple things you guys want to know this year: no Elam ending. That's going away after 4 years. So we're back to the Eastern Conference versus the Western Conference. So not only did they do away with the Elam ending, they did away with captains. Could that have been because LeBron finally lost as the captain? I don't know, but it seems a little fishy. So back to the Eastern Conference here, and or Eastern and Western conferences. So that is a bit of a new wrinkle. We, of course, have Glenn Rivers coaching the Eastern Conference because he took over as coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. And per whatever arcane rules there are, he will be coaching that side. The Minnesota head coach is going to be coaching the Western Conference All-Stars. We've got a lot of things to cover here, so I'm going to talk about it. Josh G, one-man show. Hey, it's better than a no-man show, which was kind of where this was leaning. And I said, hey, I've talked about this. I've done several shows for the All-Star break, so I have zero issues talking about it because it's pretty straightforward here. So hit the thumbs up, hit it for this guy right here who is coming to you. Much appreciated there. And I'll drop the tweet in chat. Let's get a little love for this show, because then that will help the powers that be understand that we probably should be having more people on. But let's put that there. This is our rare break time, so not knocking that, but it's been good. I see Dante, those hats have been there for years. Yes, they have, but guess what? Those hats are going to be moving south very, very soon. I will be becoming an official full-time resident of Florida here in a few months, but I am back in Virginia at the moment, which for me means sports wagering. Now down in Florida, I haven't signed up yet for Bet or for Hard Rock. They're the only ones down there, but I've signed up for everything up here in Virginia. You can believe that, and I'm enjoying it. We'll talk a little bit about Bet365 today. We'll talk about BetMGM. BetMGM is the key, though. Let's default and call them the presenting sponsor of the show. But if you sign up there, coming in through our link, deposit $10. Make a $5 wager, you will get $150 win or lose. So that's a pretty good deal there. We're going to talk AKHF. Yes, sort of a retirement community. I will be among the younger members there. My wife younger than I am, but yeah, that's kind of the plan here. This was her dream to head down there. So there we are. All righty. So let's have some fun here. Let's go through the game. I haven't quite built my lineups yet. I've built my cash game lineup, which reminds me, team free money. I've got about 15 or 20 head-to-head still down there in the DK lobby. $1 username EMac. We'll talk a little bit about what we want to do with some of these here. We have stochastic projections, so that's always a little fun. Let's give you guys a little love here. I'll put those up on the screen for a hot second. These are subscriber only, but if you guys are enterprising, I'm sure you will figure out a way to take a peek at these. Now, the one thing you want to remember when doing projections and things of that nature for this game is there's a lot of things that can happen. And a lot of things are narrative driven, and we don't always know what's going on. And when we say narrative driven, that's kind of a blanket statement for just saying, oh, we'll see what happens, and then we'll tell the story afterwards. But a few key things you want to understand: Tyrese Halliburton really is the only player that has major current ties to Indiana. Of course, he's the point guard for the Pacers. Paul George for the Western Conference. He did spend his first 7 seasons there with the Pacers. They drafted him number 10 overall a gazillion years ago. Jalen Brunson, now we're stretching. Jalen Brunson was Mr. Basketball in Illinois, which is the one state over there. Still a Midwestern connection, but he was a high school Mr. Basketball back in 2015, just in a suburb outside of Chicago. That's about 3 hours away from Indianapolis. And then Devin Booker. He grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, kind of 3.5 hours up north, but he headed down to Mississippi, lived with his dad after he retired from being a professional basketball player, and spent his last 2 or 3 years in Mississippi. So those are some of the key things that you want to remember. If we look at these projections here, we do our best to kind of figure out what's going to happen how do we assign minutes, and how do we approach things like with the Elam ending? So the Elam ending, if we go back and look at that, it didn't really impact everything. That untimed fourth quarter essentially is what it was. So wherever the teams were at the end of the third quarter, they added 24, or the target was 24 points to basically first to 24, if you will, after that point, by adding that as the threshold. So if the leading team got to 24 first, they won. The trailing team had to get to 24 and make up whatever the deficit was. But it still kind of worked out. Not 24 was in honor of Kobe Bryant, but they're going away from that again this year. We see a few different spots here. The best game line I was able to find was at BetMGM. I think I took the over at 358.5. If I remember correctly, a lot of sites were pushing just over 360. So that was helpful there. Key things that you want to know, and you can see this by our players here. Hey, why are some of the better players not near the top? Okay, so that just is, there's kind of a pecking order that seems to go into play here in the All-Star games. Now, this is never a hard and fast rule, but typically the first and second year players don't get a lot of love, right? They haven't really established themselves within the hierarchy of the NBA superstars, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Tyrese Halliburton, this is just his second game, but he's going to be the hometown hero, right? So a lot of times, and I remember all the way back, it was 1987 or 1988, the All-Star game was in Seattle with the Seattle Supersonics, and Tom Chambers was a late add to the All-Star team because somebody got hurt. And this is in the days of Olajuwon and Ewing and Stockton and Malone and Dale Ellis and Xavier McDaniels and all those dinosaurs like me. He ended up being a late ad, and they just fed him the ball the entire game, and he got 36 points or something, and won the MVP. Players try to start to look for things, so that's why they put in that winning team at the end of each quarter gets whoever wins that quarter, they get a charitable donation to their charity of choice. So they try to spice things up a little bit. That's what they tried with the Elam ending. We've seen weird stuff happen, right? Remember when I can't think of his name, Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade, right? They added them as the 13th man on both teams, right? So this is an exhibition. We saw Giannis play just 20 seconds last year, right? Again, exhibition. Why? He was sort of dealing with an injury, but he was Team Giannis. Wink and a nod, he scored and then was out of the game after 20 seconds. We've seen Jimmy Butler be too hungover to play. We've seen DeMarcus Cousins just kind of give the nah wave. So we never really know what's going on. But let's talk about some of the players that are likely to disappoint. So starting there, it's going to be the two that people have really identified this, but I was ahead of this last year. But Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic are the two. They just, whether it's they don't care, and I don't really think that's as much of the case. They're not as motivated, not quite as hungry as some of the other players. I mean, Jokic is front runner for the MVP. He's already got 2 under his belt. Doncic plays incredibly on the ball offense and dominates everything. That just, the game isn't really suited for this. They're both great passers. Wouldn't surprise me if they flirt with their I think each was right around 6.5 assists. It wouldn't surprise me if they flirt on that, but the scoring for them is down. So you could get Doncic at 12.5 or under. That line has now moved to 11.5. It went down to 10.5. The pick'em sites mostly have it at 11. I still like that under. They would like it better at 12.5, but anything under 11, I think, is reasonable there. And then if we look at Jokic, I think his right now is under 8. That's a little tougher because he could always hit a couple threes. Remember, he can do that, but he just sort of meanders up and down the court and appears on offense occasionally, right? So these guys just aren't really going to have the effort there. Nor should they, right? Why is that the case? So those are guys I've taken completely out of my player pool. They're not even in it. Devin Booker and Steph Curry and Damian Lillard. So Lillard, was he 34? He's been in the All-Star game a bunch. I believe each of the last 2 All-Star games he's had 8 made 3-pointers. So that is something that you want to remember, is this game is all about tunks and threes. Not quite like the site out there, but the important thing to remember is that there are very few fouls, very few blocks, very few free throw attempts, right? Not a lot of defense here. So you want to look to guys that have 3-point shooters or will be cutting to the basket because nobody is playing defense. So that is something that you want to consider there. most of the time, there's usually about 3 players from each team that get over 20 points. Now, this could be more, but we had Tatum got like 50 or whatever it was last year. We've seen Giannis usually clear over 30. Now, remember, he did last year, Team Giannis. That was he went out and Tatum kind of carried the load there for him. But I've seen some of the prop bets out there, up 2 or 3 players, and each get 20 points or each get 25. Don't fall for that. Anthony Edwards has said he is going to play this game left-handed. He's right-handed. That could be a problem. I've taken him out of my player pool. So that's sort of where you can see what's going on here. But we try to do our best with minutes. We look at, but even then it's hard, right? Because how do you capture the essence of transition passes? 2 quick passes and somebody's going for a layup, right? Do we focus on how many touches there are? What is the time of possession, etc.? Those are the things that are going to really, really cause challenges here. We've got the age factor. Okay, LeBron, year 20. He's been in this contest a gazillion times. Does he really care that much anymore now that it's not Team LeBron? Maybe not. Anthony Davis is hurt quite a bit, so we haven't seen him really consistently be in this game a lot, right? Those guys have their mind on the playoffs. They'd rather have another championship. Wouldn't shock me if they get on the shorter end of minutes, probably 20 PRA for each of them, points, rebounds, plus assists. I'd be surprised if there's a lot more. So I'm not really excited about them. We want to talk about some of the younger guys here. I would be shocked if Paolo Banchero plays more than 12 to 14 minutes. He is someone that it's his first All-Star game here, but he was in the Rising Stars each of the last 2 years. That's really not going to help him out. So I don't expect to see a lot for him. Tyrese Maxey, I'm not entirely sure. He has only been in the All-Star game. It's either his first or his second time. He's someone that's kind of in that same boat as is Jalen Brunson, right? They're down the pecking order, but we start to look at the Eastern Conference, a lot of young guys on that team. So breaking it down that way, I was surprised I was still able to get positive. I think it was plus 115 or plus 118 money line on the Eastern Conference. Some of the sites are minus 2.5. Some of them are plus 2.5. You want to do a little shopping there, you can always check that out at OddsShopper, our partner site over there under the Stochastic umbrella. But that is, I like looking at the side that we've just got a lot of younger players on that. And the question that we have when it comes to that is, well, who's going to play a ton? So let's just break down the Western Conference here, and then I'll look and see what we got for questions. But Luka Doncic, I don't really see him doing a whole bunch tonight. Kevin Durant, all right, KD's 35. His 14th time in the All-Star game. Figure he'll get a couple 3-pointers. Otherwise, he's probably not going to try a whole lot. LeBron, yeah, I don't know. In his last 3 years, he played 14.5, 36.5, and 13 minutes. Guess which one of those games was in Cleveland? That's right, the 36.5. So he'll be a shock to play more than 15 minutes. Jokic has played each of his 3 years, couple years off the bench, or one off the bench, and this will be his second or third starting. But he has played between 19 and 21 minutes each of those times. In the last 3 games, he has taken 13 total field goal attempts. 4 of them were 3-pointers. So Jokic's average has been 6.7 points, 7 rebounds, and 6.3 assists. I've seen his triple-double out there at plus 800. I wouldn't touch it. I don't see him doing a whole ton on that one. The only thing that would really interest me, and most of these sites didn't put up PRAs, right? Points plus rebounds, assists, like 20.5 would be a number for him. But we've already talked about, we're not excited about 4 of the starters. Well, who didn't I mention? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right? So last year he played. It was his first year. He only played 10 minutes. A little bit over 10 minutes. He's starting this year. I think he's going to be the biggest beneficiary for this game. I would expect him to play about 25 minutes, maybe even 30, and probably be with the closing unit there. He is getting up there in the NBA pecking order. He is going to be, I think he has the second best odds for MVP, so that helps him a little bit. Even though it's only his second year, I'm okay with him being a mainstay. Devin Booker and Steph Curry. All right, so Curry, Curry is, if you could guys follow Aton over there at Chander Show and at Chander Bets on Twitter, you can see that he called out Curry as the MVP out in the market. So for this game, and his lean was, hey, let's feed the old guy. right? This Steph is not a starter this year. He's coming off the bench, but he has drained 3-pointers, and he can put them up in a hurry. So I think he'll get at least 12 field goal attempts, and we could see as high as 20. Just sort of depends where it was. So in 2021, as a starter for Team LeBron, he played 22 minutes. He shot 19 times, 16 from 3. So he's just going to be out there jacking. Anthony Davis, we already mentioned, not excited about him. Anthony Edwards, don't like him because he's allegedly playing left-handed. Paul George gets a bit of the hometown bump, but he's kind of dinged up. I'm not overly excited by him. I've taken him out of my player pool. I've taken Kawhi Leonard out of my player pool, and I've taken Karl Anthony Towns, and I've cut his minutes. So I'm going with a lot of Eastern Conference players, but I shout out Gilgeous-Alexander, yes, mainstay of my lineups. Devin Booker, yes. Steph Curry, yes. And then Karl Anthony Towns a little bit. All right, let's hit the Eastern Conference. We got 15 minutes to lock here. We'll take some questions, and we'll move on. So Giannis and Lillard, right? Their coach, Glenn Rivers, as we like to call him in these parts, he is coaching the Eastern Conference. A little bit of maybe a little bit of buyer's remorse amongst all parties there. But Giannis actually has been on the winning team each of the last 3 years, because LeBron took him with the first overall pick the last 2 years with Team LeBron. And then when it was Team Giannis, that was last year, he only played 20 seconds, but his team did win. So technically, he's got one up on LeBron here. So he is, I think, a viable captain option in this format, but just how much are they really going to push him, right? And we just saw them lose to Memphis coming into the break. This team's a disaster. I think they lost something like 6 of their last 9 or something untenable. They still have the second or third best record in the Eastern Conference, but that's not what we would expect to see. But I do like Giannis. I like Tyrese Halliburton, hometown guy. He leads the league with 11.7 assists per game. And I've taken his over at 9.5 and at 10.5 on the various pick'em sites and the sports wagering sites. So I think that is pretty good. Lillard, I think, is good. Again, I mentioned gunning from threes. So in his last 2 games off the bench in this format, 22 minutes, 21 and 20 field goal attempts. Made 8 3-pointers in each. And he scored 26 and 32 points. I like him to I think 24.5 is his line. I like the over on that. But again, he's 34. What does he really need to do? I don't know, but he's a starter. So let's check that out. And then Tatum, I think he's a strong play. He was last year's MVP. Just absolutely crushed. 55 points, 10 boards, 6 assists, 35.3 minutes. So why do we like him? He's actually a pretty good 3-point shooter. 37.4% on volume. And again, you want some narrative. He had a little chip on his shoulder, right? He fell short in the playoffs, and he also, did not do particularly well in the MVP voting. And so he's kind of on the rise. No Joel Embiid. So people are going to say, centers don't work here. How many centers are in this game? Not very many. Okay, so we set aside the big man in Jokic, but the rest of the guys like Davis, it's more of a question because he's kind of getting up in age. Durant getting up in age, et cetera, right? Not because they're a center. Bam Adebayo, we'll get to him in a second. Just take him out of your player pool. But Trae Young is filling in for Joel Embiid. I'm assuming I couldn't find if he's officially going to start or they'll pick somebody else. I'm assuming they'll just have him start. But he is moderately in play just because he'll be gunning 3-pointers. He has played 2 All-Star games. He averaged 17.5 minutes, 11 points, 10 assists. He got double-doubles in both. So sadly, he's on the same team as Halliburton, who I want the over on assists. I don't know if this will support 2 players getting to 10, but that's a good call out there for Trae Young. And then on the benches here, I've already said Adebayo, forget him. Doesn't shoot threes. No need to play defense. No half-court sets here. He just is like whatevs. He has played in the last 2 games 17.6 minutes. He has taken 7 field goal attempts. That's it. Made 6 of them. This is mostly dunks. But he has 2 rebounds and 2 assists in that game. Just take him out of your player pool. Same thing I mentioned with Banchero. He's been in the Rising Stars Challenge the last 2 years, but take him out as well. Scotty Barnes, another first-timer. I think he's going to be losing out on some minutes. To who? Well, I think Jaylen Brown, for one. Brown, I think, is someone we want to target. His last 3 times in this game, he has averaged 25.5 minutes with 28 points, 9.5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Again, we got a pretty crowded Eastern Conference here, but I think he is someone on the short list. He will be in my cash game. Jalen Brunson, another first-timer. I'm not overly excited about him. I don't think the other stars are going to be doing cartwheels for him to be on the court. It'll be guys like Halliburton and some of those other younger stars for the Eastern Conference who have been there for a while. Maxey, again, another first timer. Not excited about him. Donovan Mitchell, I'm on the fence. The Utah connection last year, even though he was with Cleveland, the game was in Utah. He played 30 minutes, 25 field goal attempts. But I think he is going to be ahead of Maxey and Brunson and Barnes and Banchero. So that's quickly looking at that. All right, let's go to some questions here. Let me see. Young is not starting. Okay, thank you. That I appreciate for that calling out. Again, it's not going to be a super huge deal who starts or who doesn't. Those guys are definitely on the short list of players that I like. How much cash to leave on the table? I was messing around with one, and let me go make sure I put. Oh shoot, I didn't put my lineups in yet. So I was messing around with one iteration there where I was playing with $4,300 left on the old salary cap. So that was key. Let's see, what else do we have? Who do we like as captain? Well, let me see if I can figure out how to share a second screen here. What if I do this? I'm going to show you real quick here. So I've got, I think this will work. I'm going to go see that. Okay, so this should be sharing Fantasy Cruncher. So fun tricks with this. So I'm going to make my lineups real quick here. I think I've entered a 20 max, and then I've got my cash lineup. So I'm going to try not to overwrite that. But some fun things you can do here with Fantasy Cruncher is you can, hey, look, you can move this up and down, right? And very easily check and uncheck players. That's a pretty cool feature there. So who do I want at captain? Yes, Giannis. Yes, Halliburton. Yes, SGA. Yes, Tatum. I'm okay with Lillard. I'm okay with Booker. Curry, I'm okay with. We'll put Donovan Mitchell in there. We'll put Trey in there. Those guys are kind of afterthoughts. I'm just going to quickly say I will take no more than 10% of those guys, but I really, really want Giannis. So let's make him a 40. Let's make Halliburton a 40. Let's make Shea a 30. Let's make Tatum a 50. Let's make Lillard and those guys 20, just so we can get some maneuvering in there. I've already done that. You can see I've not, the guys I said I was taking out of my player pool, I knocked them out at 5. So let's build this real quick. Let's make 3. Do not set a salary floor. That's just silly at this point. Don't overwrite your ownership, but we can use some randomness. Let's just use 35. I want everybody making at least 10 points. And here's one thing I will do. I want 2 players from each team. I think your goal is to land with trying to get as many of the closing lineup folks as you can there. So let's just see what happens. And let's make a lineup here. All righty. So what am I not getting? I'm getting a ton of Halliburton, a little bit of Giannis, a little bit of SGA. You know what? That seems pretty reasonable. Nothing too crazy there. Maybe a little light on Tatum, but I'm good with that one. I see Halliburton. Yeah, Halliburton, I expect him to play 28, 30 minutes. His standard is around 34 minutes per game each of the last couple years. So he is someone that that's not going to be a concern. Most of the time, very rarely do players get more than 30 minutes in this game because there's 12 of them and they all want to play. So even if you give everybody 10, it just works out that way for them. All right, so let's take a peek over here. What else do we have? Do we have simulations? Not for this game. It's a little hard to run because there's not a lot of track record, and as we sort of mentioned, there's a lot of crazy that goes on in all of this, and that is just how do you know that Giannis is going to play 20 seconds? How do we know that someone like Edwards is going to play left-handed? How do we know, Halliburton is from the hometown, right? It just, you can try to factor that into minutes, but then it's relying on so many other variables that we get from a standard baseline of either playoff games or regular season games. This is an exhibition event. It's too much of a wild card for anything overly exciting. or projectable, right? It's just who's the crowd get behind, right? It almost feels like back when they would do, what is it called? The big wrestling events. I can't think of what they are. The WWE, the WrestleMania, right? I haven't watched that in 25 years, but that used to always be fun to see, where they bring in the new players and the crowd boos or cheers for what they want for future storylines, stuff like that at their big events. This is the NBA version of that, right? So it's just it is what it is. All right, so I need to upload my lineups here because I would rather not take zeros. So let's go over to our buddy here at the old DraftKings. Let's get that uploaded. Now, the other fun thing is, I still have some, I still got some team free money contest sitting out there in the old DK streets. So, that's taking my classic lineup. See, that's where I screwed it up. I need to get the all-star lineups in there. So I've got some DK head-to-heads there in the lobby. Username EMac, just $1. Definitely, guys, you're going to want to check that out. It's always fun giving back to the community. If you were playing me during the playoffs for NFL, I was donating quite a bit to y'all. So, hey, sometimes mistakes are made. So let's see here. It looks like I got 12 still in there. So you guys come get those. Have some fun with them. I'll delete that. I need to. Sorry. And then I will get back to your questions. Mea culpa. I should have done this beforehand. I thought I had, but clearly I did not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there we go. Get my 100 lineups in times 20. Upload that. And we are good. There we go. Boom. So let's see what else we have on our buddy Stochastic here. Let's see. All right. We got some players in against me. Good. Like to see that. 3 minutes to go. No pressure. No pressure. I want to remind everybody we do have the Sims package. That's a lot of fun. You guys can, if you had signed up for the Sims now, you would have gotten it for all the sports this weekend. We didn't want to leave you hanging. So we didn't have the basketball, but we got NASCAR tomorrow. The Daytona 500 was pushed, and so was the Xfinity race. So they're both going tomorrow. We've got, if you use the Stochastic avatar out there, you get $150 a month discount on those Sims packages. That's in perpetuity. That is our give back. It's our deal for you guys here. Jump in here for the old team free money. Let's see here. What else do we have? Am I going to be moving to the Villages? No, a couple hours south, but I do know where those are in Florida. Halliburton limited to 34 minutes last game. Yeah, they're totally fine with that. I don't think he'll go more than 30 tonight. Do a FanDuel one. Sorry, I didn't build out for FanDuel. I've been playing with the Sims now that we have them most days in some of those smaller field tournaments because I want to see how the Sims work in those. So I've been having some fun with that. I've only missed setting my lineup a couple times at lock, but that's okay. No biggie there, but I don't like their single game format just because they don't have those salary multipliers. Now I know in the playoffs, I didn't look today for NBA, but I know in the NBA playoffs they usually have a 2 or 3 multipliers there that change their points. But I like the DK one that makes it makes you get 50% of the multiplier there. Booker or Young? I would probably lean towards Booker. I think that's a good question on both. I wish Young was not on the same team as Halliburton because, again, I think he does a good job of getting assists in this game, and he's going to get a lot of three-point attempts. Booker I like because he's not on the same team with Lillard and Trey, and he's going to be competing with Steph for some of those touches, but they could each play 20 minutes and never ever cross paths in this game and each get up 20 shots. That's the beauty of the All-Star game. It's pure craziness here. So we're about 1 minute away from lock here. That was a lot of fun. Hit that like button. Thank you. That was a good time. You guys say I talk too much on the shows. I know you want to hear the analysts. I want to hear the analysts as well. But don't forget, I've been doing this for a long time too. So in a pinch, I got a lot to say. It can be actually pertinent and not going down too many goofy little paths. But appreciate you all being here. Hit that thumbs up. And remember, we will be back with NBA on Thursday. Ton of teams in action. No more 2-game entry points on that Thursday after the All-Star break. I think there's 7 or 8 teams playing. So a lot of action there. But with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everybody. You can find me at EMac DFS. Of course, it is stochastic_COM. And with that, gamers, good luck.